Hey, everybody, welcome to tonight's episode of Ask Me Anything Within Reason. It is very good to be here with you. I am in another undisclosed location. So, as always, we don't get weekends off anymore. So, I am very much, especially after all of the events of last week, I'm really looking forward to hearing what's on your mind. Because it's been a lot, which is another one of those phrases I'm going to need to retire. Anyway, before I get going with your questions, I wanted to let you know that we're posting a poll in the live chat. So please respond to it. We're going to have the results at the end. Trying something new. And just as always, we want to know what you guys are thinking. So please check out that poll. All right, let's go. From Gone Hiking, question: do you think Donald sees Putin as a father figure that he's eager to please, given the relationship he had with his own father? I don't know if I would describe it quite that way, but you're definitely onto something. My grandfather was an authoritarian, a patriarchal authoritarian sociopath. I'm guessing, of course, because he wasn't my father, he was my grandfather, but I'm speculating here. Probably not the best circumstances in which to grow up. So that's what Donald's used to. My grandfather was, as you can imagine, quite controlling. He always got his way. He was absolutely master of his universe, which he kept very small, because I think even he knew what his limitations were. He had two circles. He had his home and his business, and that was pretty much it. And he controlled both of them completely, as well as all of the people within them, which of course included his children. So that is the milieu in which Donald was raised, is what he's familiar with. And I think on a very deep level, Donald knows that despite the fact that my grandfather chose Donald over my dad, who was the oldest child and the namesake and supposed to be the heir to the empire, he chose Donald, who was 7.5 years younger, and to the outside observer, woefully unfit, kind of like for the job he has now. Just intellectually uncurious, selfish, unintelligent, incompetent, unskilled, etc., etc. My grandfather actually was a very smart man. He had skills, a very, very high level skill set. He knew what he was doing. He had no intellectual curiosity because he disdained things like the intellect or education. But he was very good at what he did. And I think Donald knew that he could never measure up. I don't think Donald ever quite understood why my grandfather chose him, because even Donald knew that he was nothing like my grandfather. He also, I think the conclusion Donald came to was that all he needed to be was nothing like Freddie, my dad, his older brother. Of course, Freddie was kind and sensitive and generous and funny. But in my family, those were all black marks against you. So he has this massive insecurity. And I think part of what happened, due to his early development, he has an authoritarian personality, which doesn't mean he's an authoritarian, though obviously he has authoritarian leanings. He wishes he were Putin or Kim Jong-un. People with authoritarian personalities, and I'm sad to say there are tens of millions of such people in the United States of America. They cling to the status quo. They hate change. They need to be led. And that can create certain problems. People who have authoritarian personalities can be very provincial, closed-minded. See where this is headed, right? So he needs people like Putin to approve of him, because Putin is like my grandfather in some ways, the patriarchal authoritarian sociopath. And Donald has no sense of his own self-worth. So other people whom he disdains or who don't fulfill his image of what a strong man is, their admiration does nothing for him, which is why people who are loyal to his sycophants who are loyal to him always end up regretting it because he doesn't care about them. Putin, however, like that's his ideal man. He wishes he were Putin. And again, on a deep unconscious level, he knows he never can be. So it has, I think it's safe to say that all of that has everything to do with my grandfather, with the dynamic between Donald and my grandfather, but most importantly, the dynamic among my grandfather, my father, and Donald. So thank you for asking. That was a long answer. Sorry. Okay. Maggie, 1358, super sticker. Thanks so much, Maggie. That's really generous of you. Robert, does Donald Trump have a theory of political morality? No, Donald is amoral. He has no moral compass. He has no interest in moral. In fact, he's interested in being completely unburdened by anything having to do with morality. I'm not even sure he knows what it is. He's very much he sort of approaches things with a very transactional utilitarian bent. The ends always justify the means, regardless of what those means are. And we know this about him. He has. I'm not going to diagnose him, but I think it's safe to say that you could call him, at least colloquially speaking, antisocial, which is to say he feels completely unbound by the rule of law. He has no problem breaking rules in order to get his way. And this is the thing, like, you say, well, if that does not let you off the hook if you don't know. And I'm like, I'm not saying he doesn't know. He absolutely knows the difference between right and wrong. He just doesn't care. He doesn't think any of that applies to him because he's so special, which all makes him extremely dangerous, especially since we apparently live in a system that allows for such transgressions, and not only allows them, but rewards them. Like, this is a guy who, by rights, should have been put in prison for the rest of his life. And now he's president of the United States, and we see how that's all unfolding. Okay. Maggie, 1358. Hello again. Question. Cheeto is denying that he signed the EO to send migrants to prison in El Salvador. Do you think it's dementia or just an intentional obfuscation to distract us? I'm betting on the latter. Well, Donald is, I think, also fair to say, and this again isn't necessarily diagnostic, but it's just based on massive amounts of evidence, he's a pathological liar. Anybody who lies with the fluency with which he lies, and complete lack of remorse about it, and then who doubles down on those lies, is good at lying and doesn't care about lying, or certainly doesn't care about the truth. So, I can't speak to his whether or not he has dementia. I know that my grandfather had Alzheimer's very badly for a very long period of time. I don't know if that tracks. Hopefully not. But he's clearly degraded over time. Again, he has quite serious psychiatric disorders that have never been diagnosed and have never been treated. That deteriorates for sure. He's under enormous amounts of stress. And we see that in how he's acting out and how he's diminished, which is really saying something because the guy was never on top of his game anyway. So I think it's more likely that it's just sort of knee-jerk obfuscation. I haven't seen that, so I'm not really sure what the context was, but he will lie about having done something and say he didn't do it if somehow it looks bad. Right? Somebody whose opinion matters to him leads him to believe that was a bad move or something. So I'll have to check because I don't know, but it's a good question. I would always go with the intentional obfuscation. But the rest of it, I think, if he does have some type of dementia, that will become more and more obvious as well. Hello again, Maggie, 1358. Question. Did you see the awesome joint protest in Windsor, Canada? They lined the riverfront on each side and waved to each other. It was organized by Canadians who wanted to show support. I did not see it, but go Canada. As you know, we think you rock. And I wish there were more we could do. except, hey, everybody, watch Canadian hockey. Start buying every Canadian good you can get your hands on, and start curling. That's my recommendation. But good for you guys. Keep it up, please. We need it. I love curling, by the way. Not playing it, but watching it, which I do like once every 4 years. I'm sure you'll guess why. Lori, question. Mary, do you think the courts will hold? The problem is that I can't answer that question definitively. That's bad. We have to remember, well, two things are going on right now. Well, one thing's going on right now, and the second thing is something we have to look forward to. It looks like Donald's the Trump regime is not following judges' orders. That's very bad. We've been told many times that that is the Rubicon we shall not cross, right? So that's extremely problematic, because then what is there to stop him? So we'll have to see if that's happening more. We'll have to see how that's playing out. So the second thing we're going to get to, because remember, there are dozens of lawsuits occurring across the federal judiciary, and every single one of them potentially could end up at the Supreme Court, which, as we know, is run and controlled by a corrupt, illegitimate supermajority led by John Roberts. So the reason I don't know the answer to your question is because I have no faith in this corrupt, illegitimate supermajority. They have already done untold damage to this country. I mean, that started a long time ago. Obviously, it wasn't the same corrupt, illegitimate supermajority, but this court under John Roberts has done untold damage to the Voting Rights Act already. Citizen United under John Roberts. So now we have 6 of them, and they're worse than their predecessors. And they seem to be entirely unbeholden to the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the document they're supposed to be interpreting for the rest of us. But that ship sailed when they rendered a couple of deeply, deeply corrupt and devastating rulings. One, the Chevron decision, which essentially, it didn't entirely do away with it. It certainly hobbled in ways that people weren't allowing themselves to imagine the regulatory state and Congress's ability to manage it. Plus, then, of course, the egregious ruling in the case of Donald's immunity or presidential immunity in the context of Donald. And they essentially made it clear that if you're Donald Trump, you can do whatever you want as long as you can prove. And the question, of course, is how on earth can you prove or not prove it? As long as his crimes were committed under the umbrella of official acts. So there's no reason to trust these people. They are anti-American, anti-constitutional hacks who are on the wrong side of everything right now. Nancy, question. How soon can those unlawfully taken hostages be returned from El Salvadorian prison? I don't know. It's a mess. It's a mess. We know that, look, I have no idea who these people are. What I do know is neither do the people who detained them and sent them to El Salvador. Why? Because there was no due process. Everybody in this country, whether you're here legally, not legally, visiting, everybody should have access to due process. None of that happened. ICE agents, because somebody had a tattoo or was speaking a particular language or just looked at them funny, ICE agents are convinced that they're part of this Venezuelan gang, which has been labeled a terrorist organization. by the Trump regime. So who's going to get them back? Who? The El Salvador president seems to be completely in line with Donald Trump. Oh, and by the way, the Trump regime is paying El Salvador about $6 million thus far to keep these people detained. And I think it's safe to say that the conditions in which they're being detained are probably horrific. So I made a video about this, just how it's, I mean, it's, or I talked about it during a live. I'm sorry, I'll see if I can remember where it was, but it puts me in mind of the practice of convict leasing, which came into prominence at the beginning of Jim Crow in the late 19th century and continued throughout the 100 years of Jim Crow, actually. So it's really bad what is being done to these people. And I think we're kidding ourselves if we believe that it's going to be limited to immigrants who are potentially misidentified as belonging to gangs or so-called terrorist organizations. J. Tor, question, just curious. How many Canadians are in here? I don't know. Canadians, make yourselves known. You know, throw up a Canadian flag or a hockey stick or put your elbows up, something. Kim, question. Do you think the fires going in the South and other states are concerning? I'm in California, where it's not a surprise for wildfires, but I'm blown away by the multiple fires. Yeah, any out of season or unusual in terms of location wildfires are deeply, deeply concerning because it's just another sign that climate change is happening apace and nobody's doing anything about it because we keep electing the wrong people. We keep electing the people who are all on the side of big oil because apparently the Green New Deal is a hoax. And only people are only perpetuating that hoax because they want to make money, whereas big oil is a virtuous entity that what? Gives people gasoline for free? Yeah, it's absurd. So that situation is not going to get better. What's also concerning, of course, is that despite the fact that the people who are fucking around are now finding out that Donald doesn't care if you voted for him or not. He's not going to lift a finger to help you, even if you're in the reddest of the red states. So, FEMA's being dismantled. How are red states are welfare states, so-called, which is to say they receive more money from the federal government than they pay into the federal government. Most blue states, it's the opposite. So blue states have money to take care of these things. I mean, I'm not saying it would be ideal, obviously. People need their federal funding. There's a reason that it exists, but red states are going to be devastated by the lack of assistance by the federal government if indeed the federal government decides it's not their problem. Remember this? Leave it up to the states. So yeah, very concerning. And I mean, we've said this before here. It is very, very likely that the states hit hardest and the people hit hardest by the Trump regime will be those who supported Donald, but didn't support Elon Musk. It's not weird. Philip, question. Mary, if you were a psychiatrist and not a psychologist, would you be a Freudian or a Jungian? Well, actually, psychologists also have they're called orientations, which is just your the way in which you view psychology. So it's sort of on a continuum. I personally am a psychodynamic psychologist, clinical psychologist. So there's a continuum, and Freud is on one end of it. So Freud has had massive influence in psychology as well as psychiatry. So he is Freudian psychology is on one end of the extreme. On the opposite end of the extreme is object relations, which I love. But, none of us adheres strictly to one modality. We pick and choose in order to make the best sense of our patients and their psychological makeup, their psychological histories. But it's a complicated topic. But if I had to choose between Freudian or Jungian, I'd choose Freudian, but with a caveat that I am closer to the other end of the spectrum, which would be object relations as first developed by Melanie Klein. Not her version, but she did start it. So that's a really long story. Anyway, for what that's worth, sorry if I bored a lot of people. Kind of like talking about psychology, though. Pen by Moonlight. Question. If something happened to Donald, do you think JD Vance would treat Musk the same as Donald has? Thank you for your show. Quite welcome. We love doing it. Yes, I think JD Vance is just a placeholder. He'll do whatever his handlers and benefactors tell him to do, and clearly, he's, the poll is about a video that surfaced, but you guys will see the video. That aside, JD Vance has given me absolutely no indication that he is anything but a good little fascist who will continue this charade. Although the thought of his being president of the United States of America, sorry, it's an audio leak, it's not a video, my apologies. The idea that JD Vance would be president of the United States is, well, it's horrifying, but so is what we've got now. So they're all horrifying. And then here's the thing, like, let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope it does happen. I don't know. Although I think if JD Vance were to become president before the 2020 election, there's no way he could possibly win because he's detestable in a completely different way. He's detestable without any charm. And as much as you detest Donald Trump, he actually has charisma, which is terrifying, but actually true for tens of millions of deeply troubled people. KM, Canadian in the house. Thank you so much for that, KM. Hi, Dr. Mary. I appreciate you and like you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And go Canada. I talked about curling, if you hadn't noticed. Question. Just wondering, did you go to the Tongue Stornoway? Oh, did you go to Tongue Stornoway with your grandmother? Or do you still have relatives there? No. My aunts, my grandmother went back to Stornoway, the Isle of Lewis is an island in the Outer Hebrides. It's about 40 miles off the west coast of Scotland. And it's very small. There are more sheep than people. And that's where my grandmother grew up. Stornoway is the capital, I guess you call it. And Tongue is the little village where my grandmother was born and raised. She was the youngest of 10. Her dad was a fisherman in Crofter. I think she was born in 1912. It can't have been an easy life. So she went back every year after she came to the States by I think of the USS Transylvania or something. She came back to the States every year after she and my grandfather got married. And as they got older, she brought my aunts with them. But as far as I'm aware, never brought her 3 sons, which is weird. I certainly, we did not take family vacations together ever. But I was in Oxford I think in 1990. And then I was heading to Italy, and then I decided to go to Scotland because I'd never been. And, my grandmother's from there. So I went to Edinburgh and it was amazing. And then I decided, it's like, hey, I still have a few days. Why don't I go just to Lewis and see my family? Because my dad's first cousins still live there. 2 of them lived in the house my grandmother was raised in. So I went, and it was first of all, it's stunningly beautiful. I got to meet my family, which was amazing. Yeah, I would love to go back. Cannot imagine growing up there at the beginning of the 20th century, however. It's really, I was there in May. It was beautiful, and everything about it was beautiful. But in winter, I don't know. I don't. It would feel uninhabitable. Reginald Augustus. Comment, please make a PSA of a mass protest rally on April 5th, Saturday, all over the 50 states. I just did. So I'll repeat it. There is a mass protest rally on April 5th, which is Saturday, I guess 2 weeks from yesterday, I think. Saturday, all 50 states. I guess Google it because I don't know what time, but I assume it's whatever local time. So keep an eye out for that because we need to start doing very coordinated, very widespread, very large protesting. Kim, question, Mary, who in the U.S. can take on and ridicule Donald effectively? Yeah, other people need to be doing it, though. I don't know. I mean, it's so friggin' easy. I don't know. I don't know why that hasn't caught on. Because it's literally the most effective thing. Again, somebody who has such a fragile ego, who is such a pathetic loser. It is the easiest thing in the world to mock that. Like, you can't figure out how to mock that. All right. Well, I mean, Kamala Harris, who apparently doesn't exist anymore, did it very well at the debate, but there was no follow-up. Like, we need a coordinated mockery of him. The problem now is he's so insulated, so much power. He's surrounded by so many people whose job it is to protect him from the fact that he's a pathetic loser. See what I'm doing? I don't know. It continues to boggle my mind. The time to do this was in 2016, certainly in 2020, and then incessantly since then. Nope. And close. Question. Mary, do you believe Donald will be impeached? No. The Republicans are in control of everything. Now, if there's an election in 2026 and the Democrats take back the House, yeah, sure, the Democrats can impeach him. But unless they take control of the Senate, there won't be a conviction. So he'll be impeached for the third time, and it won't matter. And there will never be a trial. So yeah, I mean, he'll probably be impeached, but he was convicted of 34 felonies. Didn't seem to matter either. Jody, question. Mary, what do you think Donald's dad would think of him now? Well, my grandfather knew the hoax he was perpetrating on people by elevating Donald and pretending that he was some kind of business genius. He bankrolled him to the tune of like $413 million over the course of his adulthood until my grandfather died in, I think, 1999. Yeah, he knew it was a complete myth that he was constructing to accomplish what he needed to accomplish. My grandfather had his own ambitions, but he wasn't equipped. Like, he couldn't do the TV thing. He couldn't do the self-promotion thing. He needed Donald for that. So he was willing to spend lots and lots of money and see Donald fail time and time and time again and still prop him up. So I guess it depends. When my grandfather is making that assessment, which would be weird because he's dead, but if he were, is he being honest? And if he were being honest, what he would say to Donald, because this is something he would say, although he would never say it to Donald, he certainly probably said it to my father all the time. He would say, if he were being honest, Donald, you're a piece of shit. And he'd say it with a Queen's accent, which, despite the fact that I grew up in Queens, I do not have and cannot imitate, which is weird. Stripey Bear. Question. Hi, Mary from the UK. Hello, United Kingdom. I love it over there. Not sure how it works in the US, but if there were Republicans who don't agree with Donald's carnage, can they resign and cause an election for their seat? Okay, this is something that has mystified me since 2015. If the Republicans, like the old school kind of Republicans, who were still awful, but not yet fascists, had banded together, they either could have stopped him from getting into office, or when he was in office, they could have stopped him from wreaking the kind of damage he did I don't understand. I don't understand why. I guess it's because these are petty people who only care about their petty power. And some of them actually liked what Donald was doing, which is scary. But that's the thing. None of that. They are 100% behind all of this. Think about what this Republican Party is allowing to happen right now across the board. It's kind of scary if you think about it. So no, there is no Republican who, for the greater good, these Republicans don't believe in the greater good. They're fascists. They want to destroy the greater good. And they're doing it with breathtaking rapidity and comprehensiveness. So I'm just waiting for the Democrats to do something, but that's another story for another time. JD, thank you so much. Not Vance, we know that. JD Vance isn't smart enough to be here, and he doesn't want to hear what we have to say. He has permanent under eye eyeliner tattoo going. I don't know. Honestly, whether or not that's true, that is the least awful thing about him. And I don't even know if it's awful. Knock yourself out, JD Vance. But stop being a fascist. But he can't because he is a fascist and he likes being one. Kimberly, thank you so much, Kimberly. I'm not, nope, doesn't matter. Okay, we have a question from Substack from Pam. Given his ego, why is Donald letting Elon get away with leading the government? Well, I think it's because I think that's a sign of just how compromised Donald is, how degraded he is. I don't think this would have happened 6 years ago, 8 years ago. I really don't. He is one, I think Elon Musk helps cover over the fact that Donald has no idea what's going on. And also allows Donald to bask in the glow of just how much Elon Musk is accomplishing, all of which is horrible and destructive. So I think that's why, honestly. And I think Elon Musk also knows how to play him, much like Putin and Xi and Kim Jong-un. That's why. Hi, it's 77771. Thank you very much, as always. Question. Doesn't all of this prove Donald has a God complex? Well, yeah, I mean, okay. Yes, in the sense that Donald thinks he deserves everything and everybody should bow down to him as if he were some kind of emperor or god. But I think what's also important, and so one of the things that's driving him, is that he's a nihilist. And he doesn't believe anything, and I mean this sincerely, he doesn't believe anything can survive beyond him, which is not what you want in somebody who has as much power as he has. So it's a destructive power. And again, it's real power now. So also he's very needy and he has needs that could never possibly be filled, which drives the other stuff. So not a great place for us to be in. Also from Substack from Michelle, question. Do you think Donald is just a clown his handlers throw out there to say outrageous things to distract while they dismantle democracy? I was assuming it's Donald because clown, kind of a clown and handlers were context clues that I used to, deduce that. Yeah, I think that, again, Donald doesn't really know what's going on, and he just wanted to get back into the Oval Office to avoid prison. Although, honestly, I think it would have avoided prison anyway because of the corrupt illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court. But obviously, it's much worse having him in the Oval Office. Yeah, I think there's no way he knows everything that's going on. He probably doesn't even know what his executive orders are that he's signing. But basically, if somebody says to him, hey, Donald, this thing will, A, be really, really cruel to vulnerable people, B, make you really, really rich, he'll sign it and move on. Kenneth, question. Do you think Roberts will try to rein in Donnie? John Roberts? No, I don't. I think John Roberts is a gutless coward who will go down in history, if there is one, as one of the most destructive elements to American democracy, along with people like Mitch McConnell. Trevor, question. Is Donald tanking the economy to cause a crash that will require massive bailouts, further ciphering taxes to the already uber wealthy? Who can use that money to buy the dip and foreclosed homes? Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know. This is speculation, but it seems to me that there's a possibility that some of this is stock manipulation, and somebody is making lots of money off the volatility in the market and the huge swings in the Dow, for example. So that's worrisome. Also, things are getting bad. People can't afford things. People are going to start selling their homes. Real estate property values will go down. Some rich person who's really getting rich in this way will come in, buy up all of the cheap, undervalued homes. Yeah. Donald and my grandfather used to do this kind of thing. They would announce Donald's joining a company or buying a company, and for reasons that continue to be beyond my grasp, the stocks will go up. They'd buy beforehand, the stocks would go up, they'd sell, and then they'd make the opposite announcement and the prices drop, that kind of illegal stuff that they got away with fairly frequently. They got caught for it, but of course nothing ever happened. Cheryl, Canadian super sticker. Thank you so much, Cheryl, and hang tough, Canada. Happy enough. Question: is this Munchausen syndrome by proxy? Donald breaks things so that he appears to be the savior by fixing it. He is such a good daddy, says the maggot. No, but interesting theory. Although I guess if the if the proxy is America, perhaps, but no. It's very interesting, but I'd say that it's more like, sorry, for those who don't know, Munchausen by syndrome by proxy is a fairly uncommon psychiatric disorder in which usually a primary caregiver on purpose either makes, for example, their dependent child ill, or if their child gets ill, doesn't seek treatment for them, so the child gets more ill, so that when the child does get help, they're very sick, and then the parent gets lots of attention because their child's sick, and everybody feels bad for them. So I don't think it's quite the same thing. I think Donald is definitely setting it up so that he comes across as a savior. But I think that happens. That's been happening for a long time. It's not that he made things bad and then saved it. He's been telling people things are bad even when they weren't. So they're sort of primed to be saved by this guy who is simply creating conditions of which he can take advantage and actually completely screw over the people who support him. And that's the irony, and that's the finding out part. Thank you for the question. Barbara, question. Mary, did you ever imagine it would get this bad? Yes, I did. Yeah, when he got the Republican nomination in 2016. Oh, let me finish your statement. I knew it would be bad, but I didn't imagine it would get to this level this fast. Yes, I absolutely did. Because I know. I mean, I didn't know the specifics, obviously. But I know Donald, and he's the same person I knew during my entire childhood. I knew what a horrible human being he was. I knew that he would stop at nothing. I knew that there was no bottom, et cetera, et cetera. So as soon as he had more than 0% chance of getting to the Oval Office, I was quite concerned. And then after he won, again, I knew it was going to be horrific. I didn't know just how bad. I hope there would be guardrails there. I guess there were enough so that we got through it. Some of us, a lot of us died. Hundreds of thousands of us died. Lots of stuff was broken, some of it irrevocably. but we somehow got through it, snatched democracy from the jaws of autocracy. But before the 2020 election, I said many times, if Donald gets back into the White House, it's the end of the American experiment. And here we are. And it is. So yeah, I've been worried about this for 8 years. And sadly, it's this bad. Donna, thank you so very much. Question: why is Donald obsessed with invisible or disappeared people, or people who say they are working but are not? Recently, he said he saw empty education department buildings. Well, probably because everybody's getting fired. I don't know. And he's trying to dismantle the entire Department of Education. That might have something to do with the empty buildings. I don't know why he's obsessed with it. I mean, they're using, dead people fraudulently receiving Social Security checks in the tens of millions just to, I think, to soften the ground when they get to the point of convincing people that we can't have Social Security anymore because it's all being stolen by dead people. I mean, it's amazing. Like that, the weird things Donald's obsessed with, like water pressure in the shower, for God's sakes. I don't know. Raking forest floors. Really weird. Kimberly, thank you so much, Kimberly. Comment, morbid thought, but I think that Donald will bring war to, yeah, that's morbid. Will bring war to our soil, bring about end times, or at the very least, will be willing to sacrifice a few blue states to satisfy Putin, given his fascination with nuclear. I think he says nuclear, but it's really annoying anyway because he says the nuclear, which isn't a thing. I don't know. What I'm more worried about is that because we have put into place of great power traitors, Russian assets, are soon to be former allies like the Five Eyes countries, etc. NATO will stop sharing intelligence with us, which will render us completely unprepared if some other country, some hostile foreign power, attacks us. That's what I'm worried about. Diana, thank you very much, Diana. It's very kind. Question: after the immigrants, who do you think Donald and his minions will target next? Well, they're already targeting trans people in ways that are horrific and unspeakable. They've been going after the African American community for a long time. Who will they go after next? Children of immigrants who were born here legally and are legal U.S. citizens. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about all of it because they're coming for all of us. But that's the next group I'm worried about. All right. Regina, question: did Donald mourn at all when either of your grandparents died? No, but to be fair, my grandfather was almost 93 and my grandmother was 89. So you can't exactly say it was shocking or that sad. They lived long. I can't say they lived good lives, but they lived long lives. And thank you so much for that, Regina. Terry's tenacious. Thank you so much, Terry. Comment: Mary, you always give me my daily laugh. Well, I'm happy to do that. And I'm glad I do. Thank you. All right. I want to thank some super stickers now. Donna, that's awesome. Thank you very much for that generosity. Kim, thank you so much. That's great. Appreciate it. JD, thank you so much. JD again. Awesome. Thank you. Sheila, super sticker. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Dodie, thank you as always. That's great. Vicky, thank you very much for that comment. Mary, you're the best. Well, that's a matter of opinion, but thank you so much. And you say thank you for all you do. Well, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Kendra, thank you as always. Another super sticker. Bill, that's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Dylan, another super sticker. Thank you so very much, Dylan. Sue as well. That's great. Vicky, awesome. Thank you very much. Elise, thank you. That's very kind of you. Dumpster Diving Dragon, awesome handle. Another super sticker. Thanks so much. Leslie, keep it real. Thank you very much. Carolyn, another Canadian in the house, another super sticker. Thank you. Kitty, thank you as well. Penny, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Excellent. Liz, thank you for the donation. Question. My pressing question is, when did Donald turn orange? Well, he didn't turn orange. He just makes himself orange. So, and I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Bad idea. Love to write to. Thank you very much. Another super sticker. That's great. Anna Maria, thank you very much for that question. What do you think about the news that Donald is a Russian asset? It's not really news. I mean, there's been word on the street about that since the 80s because he's been laundering money for Russian oligarchs since then. And I think it's pretty clear that Vladimir Putin owns him. Do we know exactly how? No. Does it matter? No, because he does. And now, right now, Russia seems to be the United States of America's closest ally, which is bad. But anyway, let's see what happened with the poll. Thanks to everybody who participated. All right, so there was a video of JD Vance talking trash about Elon Musk. So the question is, do you think the leaked audio of JD is AI or real? And the majority of you, 62% of you said, I don't know, but I've hit the like button, which is my favorite answer because it's audio. Like if it were video, it'd be very easy to tell if we're AI or not because video AI needs work. 30% say it has to be real, which makes sense to me because JD Vance is a fascist and a hypocrite. So I could totally see him being jealous of having been displaced by Elon Musk. Only 7% of you said it's definitely AI. It's too monotone to be real. All right. Well, hopefully we'll find out because that would be fascinating to know. Okay. Thanks for participating in the poll, guys. I just want to thank everybody who's watching on YouTube. That's fantastic. We love having you. Thank you to everybody, the tiny number of you coming over from Twitter. Thank you for trying hard to find me. It's getting harder. And everybody over in Substack, we love having you here. We really hope that these two communities join each other and strengthen each other. And of course, everybody listening to the podcast, we appreciate that. To everybody writing comments, to everybody who participated in the poll, thank you very much. We're going to be doing more of that. And of course, to our super stickers and everybody giving us gifts, I promise you, every single penny you give us goes for a worthy cause, which is helping us grow this community and our channel. Independent media is kind of the last bastion of hope in this country. And our pledge to you, of course, is that we are here to tell you the truth and to present you with the facts and to present you with our perspective. We are beholden to nobody but you and that mission. So, it's just us here. So we appreciate everything you do for us. Thanks, of course, to our moderators who are amazing. And to my team, but specifically tonight to Mercedes, who helps me run the show as well as always. So thank you, Mercedes. I really appreciate it. And that is it for us tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will be back tomorrow night for Mary Trump Live at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And we've got videos dropping every single day. So please check those out. We have a couple that just dropped. One is about the Proud Boys, and the other one is about the media, the state of the media, which, both of which I hope you enjoy. And we had a brand new episode of one of my favorite things to do, Trump Trolls Trump. If you've not heard of it, it's a weekly episode in which one person with the last name Trump mocks relentlessly another person who just also so happens to have the same last name Trump. I'm not going to tell you who's doing the mocking or who's getting mocked. I will leave that to you to decide. All right. That does it for us. Thanks again so much for being here. I will see you guys tomorrow night live at 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.